Recording now.
Hi, Tuscan. Glad to be here.
Great. Okay. So we are now recording.
Hi, my name is Sharon Skinner, and I'm an author and a book coach. And I write mostly speculative fiction, fantasy, science fiction, paranormal, that sort of thing, a little steampunk here and there. I have multiple books published, everything from picture book on up to novels and some middle grade in between. Uh, and you can find me at sharonskinner.com or at bookcoachingbysharon.com. And I'm here with the fabulous Jennifer Ashley, who will introduce herself.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jennifer Ashley. I'm an author. I write novels. I've written about 110 novels that are published. I do a lot through Berkeley Random House. I'm also self-published. And I write, let's see, many things. I write historical mysteries. I have three historical mystery series going, one set in ancient Rome. I write paranormal romance. Shifters Unbound is the most known series I have there, and I also write. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. Right, so, I'm on a deadline. My brain is a little bit whack, but I also write urban fantasy. I have a series under the name Allison James called the Stormwalker series that I'm working on, and various other things. So it's good to be here.
And we're going to be talking tonight about the topic of what if magic was as, what, readily available? Is that the word?
Yeah,
As technology.
an everyday thing. Yeah.
Yes, as common as technology.
Which would be cool. Do you want to start?
I'm happy to start. So the challenge for me with the concept is that I'm such a world builder. The first thing that I want to know is what's the cost? What is it? What's the price you got to pay for it? Because even with technology, there's a cost involved. Either I have to go out and buy it, then I have to buy access. So if I go out and I get my smartphone, I get my internet, I have to get my internet connected to be, to be able to use my smartphone at home or my computer at home. There's a cost to me. There's also a cost to the environment. There are costs involved. And when we world build, and I know this, that you know this because you write fantasy, when we have magic in our worlds, in our realms, there needs to be a cost, because otherwise, well, snap your fingers, everything's okay, and because I used magic, it's all fixed, right? So my first question would be, if it were common, what do you think the costs would be?
That's a good. That's a good thought. And I'm thinking like costs would be things like it's. And I've read this in some books. Like it takes a physical toll, or you have to have a certain kind of. You have to follow certain exact rules, or it blows up in your face, or you have to be a certain kind of person to be able to handle the forces. I think I've read many things like that, and in some of my books, I've kind of addressed that where someone is able to use magic, and everyday things, as you do in fantasy. But at the end, she has to rest for 3 days. She can't do anything. So anything she does, it's going to flatten her out. So she has to be very careful of what she uses it for. And that's a really good point. Um, and I think a good person who does this well is Barbara Hambly in her fantasy novels. She really has where magic is not easy. It's available, but you have to really be well trained and in control to use it. I think that's really great.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that for me, I jump straight to the magicians, and the fact that there's a source for magic and it can be cut off, or it can be bottlenecked, it can be stolen, it can be, I find it very interesting because when you start to think about it in that kind of a sense, that And then there was always a cost, right? Everything backfired on them, which was brilliant. It was just brilliantly handled, I think. Um, it, um, but um, but there's always that cost involved, and it was not considered an unlimited resource, which I found very interesting, even though especially when the source was, polluted. So I find it very interesting that to try and conceive of a realm where it's common. And another person who does it really well is Bruce Davis in his books, the Magic series, the Gold Magic and Platinum Magic, because his approach to it is a little different. His is very scientific, and um, instead of discovering magic and how it works, or I'm sorry, physics and how that works, they've discovered quantum magic, and you can cascade spells over one another, and you can set spells up so that they can be triggered by a word or by a common user. So people are carrying around, instead of cell phones, they're carrying around magic mirrors that someone else has infused so that they can call each other on the magic mirrors, right? So I find it really interesting because in his realm it's also very common, but only certain people can use it. But they've used it in a way that's very much like technology.
I read another author, Alana Andrews, and she writes a kind of urban fantasy series. And what she's done, well, because it's a husband and wife team, but what they've done is set up a world where where magic is perfectly common. It's like our world, but things have happened. And I can't remember how the world got this way, but they have two times. One is tech and one is magic. And in the magic times, no technology works. They can't use their cars or anything. They have to ride horses, but magic works. So anybody who has a magical ability can use that. But they could be in the middle of doing a spell, and all of a sudden there will be a wave, and the tech time comes back where no magic works at all, and they have to go back to using only technology. So so your computer could just totally die, and all of a sudden magic works, but then you're doing a spell that totally dies, and now your computer works again. But and they've done a really good job of, making that world very real, where magic is very common, but it doesn't work all the time, so you can't rely on it 100%. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I haven't read that. But I'm interested now. I'm intrigued because I don't like being interrupted. I don't like it when my computer goes down. I don't like it when my electricity goes out. I like my AC. But if I had an alternative, means to generate cool in my house in Arizona, or to keep my food from just disintegrating in my refrigerator, now that I might not be so annoyed, because I'd have to be in a position to be able to generate whatever magical power, or use whatever magical power there is in order to do that. So I find that intriguing.
I think the first book is called Magic Bites, I think.
Magic
Bites. Bites. Bites as a bite. Yeah, and it's a good series. I really like it. And it's ongoing. She's done quite a lot. I'm trying to get some more thoughts on this subject. Let's see. I think right now I'd love magic to work because like Scott said, I'm on a deadline. And I have to get a book. I've got the draft done. I'm on second draft, and I have to get it finished tonight. And I have 4 more chapters to go. And I'm going, if I had just a little bit of magic, I could say, okay, this is how I want it to be, and it'll be perfect. And I can send it to my editor and look really good. But so that would be a nice thing to do. But I imagine if I did that, that would be a cost, because I know that just doing the revisions, the hard way, the hand way, and I'm going to be just totally wiped out tomorrow. But that would be really nice for me right now.
Well, and here's a concept. So what if you could use that magic to do that, but the cost wasn't to you? So, right? So, because it intrigues me, the idea that, okay, so if we were to, discard the idea that when I do magic, there's a cost to me. Oh, it exhausts me or whatever. Or Brandon Sanderson uses the metals. So what you have to drink the metals, and then when you delete the magic that you have from imbibing those specific metals, it's specific metals for specific types of magic. And once you've deleted them from your body, you can't use magic till you imbibe more metals, right? And there's a cost, and it's a physical cost to doing that. But what if the cost wasn't to you? Would you still want to be able to use magic to finish those 4 chapters?
Well, right now, yes, but I'm inclined to say yes. But yeah, if you did, like, your husband suddenly had a heart attack or something, or somebody just passing out on the street, you suck their power or something, that would be, yeah, that would be something that you'd really have to think about. And then, in concept, a very evil person, of course, wouldn't care, and they would just suck everyone dry. But yeah, a person that we want to admire would really have to think about those consequences. That's an interesting idea.
What other thoughts do we have about what if magic were common as technology?
Well, my cats would still be crazy. They're like running through the room.
Yeah, that's the new thing. Instead of squirrel, when we're on Zoom, it's cat.
Yeah. Yes, and you're here to visit. But well, I write a world. It's called Shifters Unbound, and it's got a lot of romance in it, but it's also got a lot of world building and action adventure. And one thing I do is it's set in our world, but magic does work, but of course only for certain people. But it's a real challenge to put that out there. You have to decide, does everyone in the world know that the magic works, or is it secret to these people? Have to keep it secret? And I see that a lot in a lot of fantasy, and also especially urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy. It's, do we keep it secret and do we not? And that's kind of a challenge for a writer, because it has to be logical. If they keep it secret and it starts to be inconvenient, then all of a sudden you have this, do I break the rules, and all of a sudden everybody knows about it, or you have to be very careful of how these people come out as magic. And in my world they already have, and there's a lot of consequences for that they're kept kind of separate, and they've kind of sacrificed their freedom to be able to live in the world and everybody knows about them. So that was kind of interesting. So if magic were common, I mean, how accepting would we be? I mean, I realize that we're kind of having the premise that it's always been there. But what if it suddenly was there? I mean, what would be our real reaction? I have a cat tail.
Yeah, so would we all think that we'd all kind of lost our sense of reality, or how many, there are people I'm sure who would embrace it. Again, if we put aside the cost for a minute, I mean, there's some great things that you could do, but the problem that I see is that, okay, the world being the divisive place that it is, for every good thing I'm trying to put in the world magically, there's probably somebody putting something else in the world that's conflicting with what I think is the good thing and what they think is the better thing, or the better way for things to run. And so you're going to run into, as we always do, human nature, right? So if magic were as common as technology, and a big if pretty much everybody knew about it, and a large chunk of the population could use it, there are going to be, as you said, people who are going to use it who are not necessarily nice people, but there are also going to be people who use it in a way that they think is the right way, or to meet the ends that they believe in, that they justify in their world, then I might be horrified by.
Yeah.
And so I can see this whole challenge of this balance trying to be maintained with people going back and forth, countering one another's magic, if you will, in order to try and maintain some sort of balance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I even know people who, I think if they had that kind of power, I would be a little afraid. Because, yeah, there are people who think, I can do this wonderful good thing and it will fix the world. But like you said, it's horrifying for the rest of us because maybe what they're fixing is, they're not realizing what they're doing to people while they're doing that. So, yeah, that's a challenge.
On the other hand, if we could have magic run my TV and my computer and all those things, and I didn't have to be on the grid, and we could all kind of, manage and it didn't pollute, because there's the other side of it. What kind of pollution do you think magic would generate, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. If like it left trails or mess with the water or you know.
Right? So you're doing earth magic and that causes something to happen in the water, or you're doing air magic and that causes, the earth to maybe quiver and quake, or
Yeah, or some kind of poison to be released. You take the good out and expel the bad. Kind of like cars.
right? So yeah, or you're using these atoms over here and they're, vibrating at a frequency that changes the atmosphere. That would be problematic. Boy, this is a topic that I don't think can really be encapsulated, because for me, there are just so many potential aspects of it. And I think that's where we as writers uh, find a wealth of worlds to build and magic systems to create and difficulties to cause for our characters.
Yeah, it's fun to do that. To cause difficulties for our characters.
Well, it's kind of what we live for. It is our job. It's not our job to be nice. It's, as I tell some of my book coaching clients, it's not your job to be kind to your characters. That is not your job. And I had a client recently who's a very, very nice person in the world, and I said, this character is not your daughter. Stop being so darn nice to her and protecting her.
I know, but you get characters that you think, oh, I love this character. I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but it has to. That's what drives the story forward.
Yeah, as I say it when I teach it, a walk in the park is not much of a story.
Absolutely.
A walk in the park on a nice day with a lovely picnic and the sun shining is, hello, cat Zoom bomber. Yeah, it's not much of a story, right? So I mean, it's a pleasant anecdote, but it doesn't make for story.
Yeah, I once critiqued a story where the person had nothing. It was like reading A Walk in the Park. There was like no conflict at all. No matter what she set up, you thought, oh, something's going to happen, and then it just kept going.
And nothing.
I had to explain, no, something's got to happen, or there's no story.
All right. Well, I know we don't have anybody on for Q&A right now, but I understand there will be some opportunity for that. This is being recorded, so and I know we weren't going to go too long, but do you have any closing thoughts about the idea of magic being common?
Well, I think it's an intriguing thought, and as you say, there's such a realm of possibility that you could explore with this, like the costs and what what it does to the environment and that kind of thing. I think there's just a lot, and I'm going, maybe I'll do this in my next books. Let's talk about some of this. So yeah, I think it's a very vast topic, and it's interesting to talk about.
Yeah, and I think it has generated some ideas for me. I'm gonna let a few things percolate, because I've got a few things now and I'm like, that's interesting. Because a lot of my magic is very earth based. I have a character in my middle grade novel, The Nellick Stones, who is a tree mage. She's basically a sorceress who's part tree, part person. But in order to do her magic, she has to actually sink her feet into the earth and sort of and touch, and almost take root. And there's an aspect of that that to me is very earth magic related. And so I think that when I start to think about all the magic in any of my books, they pretty much have a lot of that earth magic, lots of green witches, lots of Wiccan concepts and things like that. So it's an interesting concept to think of magic as being more common, but what else might the cost be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a storm mage who has to, takes her power from the storm. So, it's like what comes out the other side.
Oh, yeah. So no calm days. Calm days are not a good thing for that.
Yeah, that's true. On calm days, she can't do anything. She can't. She has to have a storm of some kind nearby. Now she lives in northern Arizona, so she gets a lot of storms up there. But yeah, on calm days, and something happens, and she needs to work magic. It's too bad, so sad. But fortunately, I've given her a boyfriend who's a dragon, so that's very a dragon shifter. So that's very helpful to her.
Well, we do have to help our characters. We don't have to be kind to them, but we do have to give them some supportive, some support and some skills, right? Otherwise, then they wouldn't be. Their stories wouldn't be interesting either.
Yeah.
They never win.
Yeah, that's true. I don't like stories where people never win. I want them to struggle a little bit, but yeah, when I'm reading, I want at the end, I want them to get there.
Agreed. All right. Well, I think we've just about come to the end of our time, and I've had a great time. I know you have a deadline to get to, so we don't want to keep you too late. I've enjoyed doing this though, and I don't know if Scott, you want to come back on and say anything before we sign off. But thank you so much for having me as part of this.
Yes.
And thank you everybody for being at Tucson virtually.
Yeah. Enjoy Tucson. This is great.
Thank you guys so much. Stopping recording.